Welcome to Retire Your Way with ILG Financial. My name is Chase Lopez, and this is Dave Lopez, and we're both investment advisor representatives with ILG Financial. And today we're going to talk a little bit about target date funds. So Dave, what is a target date fund?
Yeah, boy, that word gets bantied around. Is that the
Sure
right
does.
word? Bantied? Bantered around? Passed around. Target date funds. Target date funds are really a kind of a quick way, if you're not sure how to invest, to have a set it and forget it. It's used a lot for young people. It's used a lot in 401ks and
Yes.
TSPs. Basically what it is a combination of stocks and bonds for the most part, but really you're not in stocks and bonds, are you? You're in stock funds
Right.
and bond funds. And when they say target date, the target date they're talking about, Chase, is a date you either plan to retire or some date out in the future. And the idea of a target date fund is it automatically and systematically, without you doing anything, moves money from the stock buckets to the bond buckets, in theory, to make it more conservative the closer you get to the target date.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's interesting, in most 401ks, I feel like that's really the default that most folks resort to when they're making their financial decisions when talking about investing in the 401k.
You know, I found that too.
Yeah.
And I think a challenge with that is if you're young and you don't know what to do, they just, they jump out on, think of it as the menu. Because the other ones, you really don't know what they do.
Exactly.
And there's no one really advising you, so someone
Right.
just might tell you at work, well, just pick a target date.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say, it's not necessarily a bad idea for a very young worker, right? Your target date fund, if it's 30 years out, it might be 95% in stocks,
Right.
which is a good allocation, and then you're just continuing to contribute, and
Right.
it's just eking a little bit more towards bonds the older you get. But here's the challenge, and I want you to give me your opinion on this. The challenge is, as you start to get in or near retirement, you might be at the point now, for several reasons, which we'll talk about, where the target date fund may not be a good fit anymore. So you want to talk about a couple of those together?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that we see when we get closer to retirement, right, is everyone's goals are a little bit different, right? When we're saving for retirement, everyone's goals are pretty much the same. We're trying to save as much as we can for retirement, grow our bucket as big as we possibly can. But really, when we get to retirement, everyone's plan is a little bit different, right? Some folks need it for income. Some folks are using this money to pass on to their heirs. It really just runs the gamut.
Yeah, let me give you a great example of that. Let's say you get near retirement and you're still in a target date fund, and you need to take $5,000 out a month to start to live on. Well, are you taking the $5,000? It's going to really come out of the stocks and the bonds. That's not the ideal for you. Ideally, as we get closer to this retirement situation where we're considering pulling money out, we want to kind of separate those two buckets and have more freedom as to not just how much we have in each bucket, but which bucket we're using for tax purposes, which we'll talk about in other in other videos, and also for income purposes. For example, if the market just tanked, you don't want to be taking $5,000 out of your stocks. We want to hold on to stuff when it's gone down.
Exactly, and it really is quite a cookie cutter, vanilla type of allocation.
Well, that's a good one,
right? Just because, as you said before, regardless of what's happening in the world, right? Whether the stock market's up, stock market's down, this target date fund is going to move you from stocks to bonds, irregardless of what's going on. So
well, I don't want to put this specific for this video, but if interest rates are going up, your bond funds may actually be losing money and performing horribly in that environment. Yet your target date fund is going to just continue to move money into that, even though we know it's a bad performer moving forward. So that's a good example of where cookie cutter could get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Let me give you another great example. Is when you're young, your only savings may be the 401k. So the target date fund may fix. You've got a general allocation. It's mostly stocks. You're young. You start to get older and more successful. Many folks that we meet with, now you start to add other investments, right? In addition to your 401k, you may have a regular account, a stock brokerage account that has stocks. Well, what if it has 95% is in stocks?
Right.
How does that fit in the whole in your whole portfolio? Now, if you may, when you look at a combination of your target date fund, which was maybe 70 stocks, 30 bonds, and 100% in your other account, you may be 85, 90% in stocks, which may not be the allocation you want at all. So the point is, as you start to get older, and accumulate other assets, including real estate and any other asset, well, you really don't want to isolate this target date fund. You want to start to look at the whole bigger picture.
Boy, and when you say that, it really just brings it into crystallization into my mind, where really folks have to be taking a look at this stuff, I would say at least yearly, right?
That's exactly right.
Because we're getting more assets, to your point, and our asset allocation, the way we thought it was maybe a year ago, just depending on how the markets have performed and how much wealth you've accumulated, it might be a completely different asset allocation than what you thought before.
And what's going on with your life.
Exactly.
Right? You're
exactly.
going to need this money shorter term or longer term, and is your risk tolerance change based on what's going on in the world? So a lot to consider. I think the takeaway would be, when you see target date fund, consider it cookie cutter, set it and forget it, which might be very good the first 5 or 10 years at most, the first 5 or 10 years in retirement. First 5 or 10 years of your work life. But quickly you should start to either work with someone who can help guide you through it, or educate yourself on how to allocate your stuff because of the changes that you have in life.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. So if you enjoyed the video today, simply subscribe and hit the thumbs up there at the bottom to keep you in the loop for future videos, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.